Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fit Insider, the show where I talk with the entrepreneurs, executives, and investors who are redefining the business of fitness and wellness. Today, I'm joined by Eric Wu. Eric is the co-founder and COO of Gainful, makers of personalized nutritional supplements. In this episode, Eric shares his journey from YCombinator to raising $10 million in venture capital. We discuss the opportunities and consolidation in the personalized nutrition space, and Eric explains why he believes Gainful could be a billion-dollar company. Let's get into it. A quick reminder before we get into today's show. Every Tuesday, we send a weekly newsletter filled with insights and analysis on the business of fitness and wellness. Join other decision makers and industry operators by subscribing at insider.fit.co. Let's get into it. Hi, Eric. Welcome to Fit Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe.
Looking forward to chatting here today. And I think just to kick things off, can you tell us, more about yourself and what you're working on at Gainful?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Eric Wu. I am one of the co-founders and the chief operating officer here at Gainful. Gainful makes personalized sports nutrition, and our first products are a personalized protein powder and personalized hydration. Been around for about 4 years. Started the college back when I was an undergrad. Actually, started the company back when I was an undergrad in college.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think even digging in a little bit more context, you said about 4 years. So how have you approached, at least to this point, raising capital? How much have you guys raised? How big is the team? And just where does the operation stand today?
Yeah, great questions. We've raised a little bit over $10 million in venture. The first money that we got was actually from YCombinator. So we did that right when we got out of college. And this was all the way back in 2018. So pretty early on, we got into YC, and that was a really, really great experience for me and my co-founder, Jahan. Obviously, YCombinator is one of the biggest fundraising platforms in the world. People come out of the woodwork to invest in YC companies. And since then, we've just been growing really steadily. It's difficult building a direct-to-consumer company. I think particularly difficult if you're a first-time entrepreneur, because there's just so much that you can learn about growth marketing, about unit economics. But really, we were very, very scrappy from the beginning. And I think that helped us out a lot to have a mentality that was always fighting for whatever improvements and progress we can make in the company. And since then, that's really been paid off by both attention from customers, but also, of course, attention from VCs. So we had our seed round with Brand Project. That was in 2019. They led our seed round, and we've been really, really blessed to have their support all the way through. And they doubled down and actually co-led our Series A round most recently. We announced that 2 months ago in January of this year, that Brand Project was leading our Series A along with Courtside VC. So they co-led our round.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And definitely a lot of kind of insights there. I'd be interested to hear, from starting the company, kind of coming out of college to getting into YC, maybe what was the initial vision for what you were going to build at Gainful? And then how has that transformed as you've grown the company over these last few years?
If you told me that I was going to be the co-founder of a supplements company just a couple of years ago, maybe at the beginning of college, I would have probably looked at you very funny and called you crazy. I did not expect this to be my career trajectory by any means. It was, and really the story starts with just a need that I had as a person and as an athlete. I'd grown up playing soccer. That's actually how I met my co-founder, Jahan. We grew up playing soccer together in Southern California, and we were on the same high school soccer team. And when we went off to college, we continued playing soccer at the club level and just saw our friends and teammates and other athletes having protein shakes, but never really understanding why they were putting these things in their body. It's just kind of what you did because you saw LeBron James or whoever your favorite sports star having their protein sponsorship, and you felt like that's just what real athletes did. So for me, it was nothing that I was serious about. It was really nothing that I even touched until close to my senior year in college. And that was when I decided to really just get my fitness and my own nutrition on track, because as a college student, you don't really pay attention to that stuff very much, even as somebody who was playing sports pretty regularly in college. But when I went to the local GNC, I still remember on Wisconsin Ave, right off campus, when I was going to Georgetown, I was faced with shelf after shelf of these crazy products that all have really macho names and over-the-top branding and packaging that just made me feel like it was going to hurt me rather than help me. These things all see and sound like nuclear waste. They don't sound like things that you want to put in your mouth and actually ingest. And that's when I just bought up some random raw ingredients on Amazon and started doing internet research to figure out what was right for me. I was mixing things up in Tupperware containers and when I told Jahan about it, Jahan was going to Berkeley at the time. He was super excited. And Jahan remains to this day the smartest guy I know. And so when he told me, listen, this could be huge. Personalized nutrition is the future. This shouldn't be a college side project. This could be a real business. I obviously listened to him. And that was very validating for me. One thing led to another, and we ended up doing YC together.
Yeah, very cool story. I think, I'm someone been in the fitness industry for, 10 plus years, but even before that, high school and college athlete, played football, got into triathlon. I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum. I've taken literally every supplement. I can't imagine how many tens of thousands of dollars probably at this point that I've spent on this with like not knowing at all if any of it works. I mean, there are a few things that make me feel good, whatever, a few things that make me feel terrible, but it's a massive industry, right? Tens of billions of dollars. And there's like a lot, and I'm personally torn on it, right? Do I need these supplements? Has anybody, verified that they are working? So just like, what are your thoughts about entering this space, saying like, is it pseudoscience? Is it snake oil? How do we make sure that like, we're not one of those kind of scary on the shelf GNC brands?
Exactly. Yeah. And the really cool thing about Gainful, what we're building here, I think, is that we can cater to people like you, as well as people like me a couple of years ago. Totally green, no idea how any of these ingredients would work for my body. Just really, really desperate to find something that wasn't so crazy. But there's just like this gulf in the middle of people who don't really know what they want to do in terms of nutrition. They know what their goals are roughly. They know roughly how they're exercising and what they want to look and feel like. But most people don't want to spend the time doing hours and hours of internet research to figure out, what's the difference between whey protein isolate and whey protein concentrate, right? That's not the priority for most people. The priority is reaching their goals. And that's the gulf that we're trying to bridge here at Gainful, is helping people who may not want to be a nutrition nerd, who may not know enough to actually choose a protein powder from the zillion options that you see at a GNC, and give you the guidance necessary to make you feel like you have peace of mind and you have the confidence that what we're helping you out with is actually going to help you rather than hurt you. And the way that we do that obviously is through a quiz on our website. So customers go to gainful.com, they take a 5-minute quiz, and then we personalize to you and we make recommendations based on your body, your exercise, your fitness goals, and your dietary restrictions, a set of protein powder, pre-workout, and hydration that we know is going to make you feel better, perform better. And most of all, we explain to you exactly why the ingredients in your blends are there for you. And we map them back to characteristics about yourself that you told us in the quiz. But it's one thing to give someone just a product and say, hey, this is made for you, go run with it. We want to go one step further because we know that there are a lot of people like me, a lot of people like Jahan, and even people like you, Joe, who your way around supplements, who want a little bit extra guidance, right? And that's why we give every single customer free one-on-one access to their very own registered dietitian. And you can reach out to your RD through Gainful. You just take the quiz, and then anybody, even if you haven't made a purchase, can have a conversation with your registered dietitian. And they can talk to you about how to reach your goals. And if Gainful is not the right product for you, which is rare, we do have a personalized product, so we do cater to most folks. But if Gainful is not the right product for you, they'll be totally upfront about it and recommend another product for you. Because at the end of the day, our goal is not just to sell a bunch of protein powder, sell a bunch of hydration, sell a bunch of pre-workout. It's to make sure that people leave feeling like they're actually well equipped to reach their goals with Gainful, whether it's a product or a service.
Yeah, there's a few things in there that I think make it particularly interesting. And I definitely want to circle back on the personalization piece, but I'd be curious to know, do you guys talk about kind of publicly the rate that people are choosing to engage with that RD and like follow up, and to when does it become like, hey, we don't have the resources maybe to continue this conversation to the extent that you need it?
Oh yeah. It's a great question. Right now, we're seeing way fewer people interact with the registered dietitian than we'd like, but the interactions that people are having are super deep. The responses that they're getting from our RDs are really detailed. And we're seeing that those customers go on to stay on the subscription for so much longer than customers who don't actually have that conversation with their registered dietitian. So we know it's a huge value add for customers, and we're working our butts off to figure out more ways of getting people in front of their RDs so they can have these really fruitful, really helpful conversations that not only make a lot of good business sense because it helps people stay around longer, as well as get more value out of the products themselves, but also we know that it helps them reach their goals too. So it's really a win-win. And in terms of scaling the RD program, we are more than happy to continue hiring RDs as long as they're helping people, making a difference, and also, of course, getting people to understand the product and the value of personalization better.
Yeah, it's smart. And I think, as you said, it's a win-win, and it obviously the kind of value speaks for itself. And when you look across the landscape, like how many people, other companies are willing to do that and invest those resources on the part about personalization, right? This is obviously the holy grail when it comes to not just nutrition and health and food, but just healthcare more broadly, fitness more broadly. Like, how do I get the thing that's right for me at the time that it's right for me? When you think about that word and the risk that it's kind of a buzzword in the industry, how do you think about making personalization like matter and then continuing to double down on that? There's companies, right, that they do blood testing or urine testing, biomarkers. Is it a matter of going that far, or is it just like getting to know that person, the customer, in a way that you can deliver, products that meet their goals in a timely manner? So like, how do you define that personalization aspect?
Personalization can get pretty darn complex. And you know that better than probably most people that we talk to. And right now, we're not at the point where our customers ask for or need things as detailed as an at-home kit that's then sent to a lab, and then we produce products for them. Right now, they want something lighter touch, something like a quiz, which we do have, and a proprietary algorithm that then recommends the types of products and the ingredients that we have in our products for the individual. In terms of the broader vision and why personalization matters to us as a company, but also for just human health in general. Again, the science can get pretty complex, but the basic need for personalized nutrition is pretty simple. And it goes back again to the founding story at its core, which is that everyone's different. And as it turns out, not everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, and everyone has different dietary needs, different exercises and body types. But I think just as importantly, everyone's coming from a very different place when it comes to how much they know or care to know about nutrition. And with Gainful, we're here to meet you where you are and give you everything that you need, nothing that you don't. We keep things pretty darn simple. And to help us create these products, we have a science advisory board. And they really have put it in perspective for me because they work with some of the world's best athletes from, they've worked with NBA championship teams like the Golden State Warriors, to Olympic gold medalists, to national teams, to some of the best cyclists in the world. And if you're an elite athlete, what our science advisory board has shown me is that you get one-on-one everything. That's physical therapy, meal plans, workout regimens, equipment. And how we're thinking about what we're building at Gainful is that we're taking a small part of that level of elite personalization that our science advisors do every day, and we're making it available to everybody. And you might not be in the NBA finals tonight, right? But you know the feeling when everything clicks into place and you feel good and you're ready to take on the world. And that doesn't matter if it's your morning run or you're hitting the gym or just even chasing after your kids in the backyard. We're providing that to you. And I think where that becomes especially valuable for Gainful is not just strictly in protein powder, not just strictly in hydration. What we have on our hands is a personalization platform, which I'm sure you've heard a million other founders say before. But what we mean when we say a personalization platform is we can copy paste what we're doing in protein powder, in hydration, and put it into other adjacent categories that are super complementary, that all together as a system work together to make sure that you're performing at your peak. And again, it doesn't mean you have to be a pro athlete. You can just be somebody who wants to get a little bit extra out of your day, out of your workout, out of your evening routine. And that personalization platform is something that for me is really exciting because it extends even beyond sports nutrition and into nutrition more broadly.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job of explaining it there. There's a few pieces that tend to come up on the show when we're talking with folks. One, this idea of trickle-down health, that so many things, whether it's from a technology standpoint or from focusing on kind of an elite athlete standpoint, Nike shoes, Gatorade, the Polar heart rate monitor, all those things started as being catered to like elite and Olympic athletes and eventually made their way into what is, the everyday health and fitness seeker. And then that other idea that we might not, if we're moving people closer to healthy behaviors, that's something that happens over time. So even simplifying it, recommending products, giving them something that they need when they need it is a huge step in the right direction. And then the last piece, this idea of the personalization platform. This is, a question that I kind of had that I wanted to ask you. Do you think of the company as being a technology company versus a nutritional supplement company? And how do you think about that as like continuing to push towards like that goal maybe?
Great question. We are a nutrition company at our core, and personalized nutrition is our way into everyone's lives. Obviously, it doesn't happen without technology. We are, like a lot of other direct-to-consumer brands nowadays, technology enabled, but I think we are particularly technology enabled given that we're doing personalization through this proprietary algorithm that we have. We cannot do what we do unless we have a core competency in tech. And that's why my co-founder is a CTO first and foremost. He's an engineer. He studied chemical engineering and computer science in college. So John is very well equipped to bring this type of product to market in a way that is very, very tech savvy. Obviously, we're direct to consumer, so it's really important for us to also be on the forefront of e-commerce. Even though we do intend to go into stores eventually, it's still always going to be important for us to imbue our product with a sense of the tech that underpins it, right? And what's super exciting for me actually is that, like, to your point, there's a progression of not just consumer understanding, but what customers want in their lives and how involved they want nutrition to be in their lives. Right now, bar none, we are every single one of our customers' first experience with personalized nutrition. And that is so energizing for me because that means in just a couple of years' time, anywhere between 2 and 5 years' time, when personalized nutrition is really on the forefront of everyone's minds, not just investors, not just big companies and conglomerates, but really at the front of everyone's mind when they're going to the store and buying what they need to buy for their day's worth of food. Gainful is going to be the first experience they ever had with personalized nutrition. And at that time, we're going to have way more products within sports nutrition, but possibly outside of sports nutrition and in nutrition more generally as well. And since we were there, that trusted brand, that trusted guiding voice for folks early on when they first ever heard about personalized nutrition, we can build on that and eventually maybe even be every single thing that a person eats in a day that's not whole food. We never want to take away your whole food. We're not a Soylent, we're not a Huel, we're not a meal replacement. We'd rather you eat your whole food, but nobody's perfect. And we're there to fill in the gaps and also bring you to 110%, make you feel every single day like you've hit your stride and that you're in the zone and you can go out and do whatever that needs to be done.
Yeah, it's smart. I think that idea of associating Gainful with personalized nutrition as these consumers go about their life elsewhere, like I think that will pay dividends. And I kind of hear you being super excited about that as well. I want to circle back to the consumer piece. I have a question there, but first, since you mentioned this, we kind of talk about, being technology enabled, but a nutrition company at the core. To this point, you've raised $10 million and going through that process, was it a challenge to convey that to investors? Like, listen, the perception of what a supplement company is, like, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is trying to do this like other thing over here that, yes, it is about nutrition. Like, did you have trouble with those conversations? Did people get it? What was that experience like in general?
Yeah. With venture investors, I think there was already a pretty broad sense that supplements was an exciting category, whether that was sports nutrition supplements or just like a multivitamin. I think there were a lot of VCs, even early on in Gainful's kind of trajectory, that were looking specifically at supplements as a category that was pretty high LTV, relatively high AOV, very good margins, and lent itself well to repeat purchases, to subscription, right? So a lot of direct consumer investors around the boom of e-commerce, when people were all looking for the next Warby Parker, when everyone was looking for the next Dollar Shave Club, were already thinking about supplements. And it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective to look at supplements. All those things that I just said about high AOV, high LTV, high gross margin, strong loyalty are all true. And we're seeing that play out today with Gainful. But when we were pitching investors, and we still obviously talk to venture investors all the time today, our vision of personalized nutrition is what really got people over the line when they were thinking about what's the next $1 billion idea. In direct consumer, there's a ton of exits. It's very, very appealing for a protein powder company to exit these days, because there's just a lot of buyers when you're talking about M&A at some point when you're doing a couple $100 million in revenue. But what we're shooting for is likely not as easy as that, but very, very, I guess, it's very appealing for venture investors who are thinking about the big picture in terms of where the market's going, how people are going to be thinking about taking care of themselves, their bodies, their health, and why personalization is going to be the most important aspect of what people are putting into their bodies in a couple of years.
Yeah, and it's starting to play out a little bit now when you think of like the landscape more broadly and the M&A around personalized nutrition. Nestle is consolidating companies in the space. They bought Persona. Bayer bought Care of, which was like kind of down that same path of like, how do we make personalized nutrition? I think more recently, Nature's Way bought a company called Bays that was doing kind of the vitamins and supplements around blood testing. So it's definitely there. And you mentioned the unit economics that make it really compelling, right, from an investor standpoint. But then at the same time, we also see even something like a liquid IV. The terms weren't public, but I think it was Unilever that scoops them up. I'm sure it was a pretty hefty price tag with not even getting right to that like personalization level. When you think of the landscape, and I'm sure maybe potentially the answer is all of the above, but is it more of like somebody consolidating the CPG space, like a Procter & Gamble, Unilever, or is it more of like a, how do we get to that level of like big food, Nestle, or even are you at the point where it's like thinking about acquisitions or potential partnerships down that path?
Great question. We obviously have an investor, Brand Project, who's been with us since day one. And they were the first investors in companies like Daily Harvest. They were the first investors in Freshly, which also sold to Nestle. So we do have an understanding of strategically what companies like Nestle are looking for. And they have an explicit strategic interest in buying companies that are doing personalized nutrition. Basically, the future of food, the future of nutrition is a focus area for them, as well as personalization. And so that's why they buy companies like Persona. We are really blessed in that we have a pretty attractive menu of potential exit options. Not even talking about IPO quite yet, but even just talking about the types of acquirers. Like you named a number of them and you've named why they're super active in this space. Companies like Vital Proteins also getting acquired for many, many millions of dollars. They have obviously built a collagen platform, right? And that's a functional ingredient that is very hot and also really well studied and has a lot of really, really well-proven efficacy for not just athletes, but everyday individuals as well. What we have is, I think, potentially even bigger than that, right? It's not just a single functional ingredient that we're building a brand off of. It's personalization in general, and it's personalized nutrition. So we can incorporate things like collagen. We can incorporate things like micronutrients and macronutrients and any other functional ingredient that we want to incorporate as well, all under the umbrella of personalization. And that's something that I think will be very, very valuable to some of the largest acquirers out there. But along the way, if the right opportunity comes up, to also be for us to be a strategic play in the portfolio of like a nutrition specific company, right? Like a supplement company or even a beverage company. We're open to those conversations as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think at this point, we'll leave it there with like a TBD. We'll let it play out, right? There's a lot, a lot of things that, kind of have yet to be told, but certainly a lot of really interesting opportunities and just the space more broadly being in such the early innings in terms of like, even knowing what we're eating, when and why, everything that goes into that. The part that I wanted to come back to, we kind of touched on the consumers a little bit and the idea that, Gainful is their first experience with personalization. Even when you start to think about, who that target consumer is, like who's buying it now, what channels in terms of acquisition are working, and how do you plan on maybe scaling or broadening beyond that?
Something that's really exciting for us right now is that our customer is pretty evenly split between men and women. Skews a little bit more male recently, but it's pretty evenly split between men and women. And that's definitely a change from traditionally what protein powder brands were seeing. You were either very gendered to women or to men and very little in between. You're either a macho man brand or you were white and green crunchy yoga brand, right? And that's something that I think we're flipping on its head, because we're helping people realize that this is nutrition for everybody. And just because you're a man or you're a woman, there may be differences nutritionally that you need, but we're covering those so comprehensively that our customer base is pretty much 50-50 men and women. The unifying factor in all of our customers that I really love is that they all have this very keen sense of progress and how important progress is to their everyday lives. They're very ambitious people. They want to achieve more and more every single day, and they want to be better than yesterday in not just their fitness, right? It's not just about doing a PR in the gym. It's not just about running farther, longer, faster in less time. It's also about going to work every day and feeling like they're making progress in their careers. It's about being a better parent. And for us, that is so motivating, because we're really helping these people achieve even more on top of the things that they've already achieved, and giving them the ability to take one thing off their plate, which is worrying about their nutrition, worrying about their supplements, and giving them that time of their day back, and also giving them a brand that they love and a product that they trust that gives them peace of mind is really it's a great reason to come to work every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Turning people on to and being part of helping them achieve those goals. You talk about being a direct to consumer brand. And even if you go into brick and mortar, still having that aspect of the company be super important. Obviously kind of, the world we live in, Instagram, Facebook, super important, need to optimize those platforms. But even within that, from whether it's specific styles of content or different takes in terms of ads, is there something that you guys have seen that's worked super well? There are platforms that you're maybe doubling down on, or even things that haven't worked so well that was interesting to learn?
Mm-hmm. We were just talking about it this morning, was how some of our content that performs really, really well is our registered dietitian content. So on organic social, for example, things that are really, really high engaging for us are when our on-staff registered dietitians get up on IGTV and talk about an area of their research, an area of their academic background that is really interesting to them. Another very, very, productive type of content for us is content from our science advisors. So these are folks who, like I mentioned, have been the on-staff nutritionist for the Golden State Warriors. One of our science advisors is the VP of performance for the Sacramento Kings. We have another science advisor who worked at Cliff Bar for 20 years with all their athletes that they sponsor. And when they talk about things like, for example, hydration, myths behind hydration and what it means to really be hydrated throughout the day, people listen and people love that type of content. That's on the organic side, which is obviously a huge focus for us, because we want to build a brand that people come to not just for products, but also for information and for community. Another really interesting thing that we do a lot of is testimonials. People love hearing from people just like them. And that's really the beauty of Gainful and the amount of data that we have, right? We've had 2 million people fill out our quiz. And so we know pretty much to a T what type of content resonates with what type of people. And so when you sign up for Gainful and you fill out our quiz, we can give you things that are related to vegans who want to build muscle, or people who are keto, who live on the West Coast and are more interested in long distance cycling, right? Like this granularity of personalization in not only our product experience, but also in our marketing experience, in the content that we're giving people, in the communities that we're building within the Gainful platform, is something that's so powerful. I think it would be hard to ignore, both as a customer as well as an investor.
Yeah, it goes beyond, again, back to that personalization, like all the aspects that you're able to derive from that and then use as you continue to build out the platform, and even help that steer you as you go. It's hard to even to quantify, let alone conceive of all the options there. Mm-hmm. The last thing I wanted to touch on as we get towards the tail end of the conversation was, you're building this team and company, got into YC, after college, and, you even said it wasn't even on your radar that this is what you would be doing. And then now as the company grows, you recently transitioned out of the CEO role, brought somebody else in as one of the co-founders. I think that's super interesting, both in terms of like thinking about how it is you get to the next level, also being kind of humble and aware, self-aware enough to know that you need to do that. What was that process like? How do you think about that as it relates to building the team, and maybe what went into that decision?
What's so interesting is when we made the move to bring Dean on as our CEO, it was a no-brainer for us. It was something that we knew was going to maximize the outcome, not only for me and Jahan as co-founders, but for everybody at the company and also for all of our customers. Being able to create a huge footprint for this company and bring personalized nutrition to everybody, it wasn't even a question. It was just something that we knew we wanted to do, and it was so exciting to us. But ever since then, investors and people that we're interviewing, everyone picks up on it and says like, man, you, Eric, and Jahan, like you two are so humble. And I never thought about it that way. Like I didn't think about it as being ego-free. I thought of it as almost being selfish, like maximizing our chances of success and maximizing our chances of getting there quickly. It really was a no-brainer for us. And when we met Dean, I think he made that decision super easy for us too. We didn't actually think about bringing on an outside CEO until probably later on in our company's lifespan. But when we met Dean, it was like so many lights went off. He had the experience of e-commerce. He had the experience building consumer brands, not only on the software side, but also on the direct consumer side with physical products as well. He really understood what it meant to hire people for growth. And he also helped us refine our vision for how quickly we could grow this company to $1 billion company. Jahan and I always knew that we had $1 billion company, $1 billion+ company on our hands. From pretty early on, we knew that was the case. But we knew that there would be speed bumps, and we thought it was going to take us 5 to 7 years to build that company. And when we brought Dean on, it became really clear to us that what we have on our hands is very special. And with the right type of help, we can grow to that size that we didn't think we would be able to get to in 5 years, but do it instead in 2 or 3 years. And that type of growth is just, it's so appealing for somebody as early on in our careers, like me and Jahan are, to come out of college and know that not only on our first at bat will we have a really good experience, but we might even be able to knock it out of the park pretty quickly too, with some experienced help. So it's been a huge pleasure and honestly a ton of fun working with Dean on building this company. And I think our progress in the last year has already shown what a difference having some extra very talented people on the team can mean for us.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, but I think it takes, like I said, a certain level of self-awareness to know that whether it's selfish or not, it's probably the right move, and certainly plays into a lot of exciting stuff that you guys have going on, from the trajectory to the various opportunities. You think about personalization, and I think that's probably a great part to wrap the conversation up on. We'll actually get you out of here on this. Just tell folks where they can learn more about Gainful and potentially get in touch if they're interested in learning more.
Of course. So anyone can reach out to me. I'm Eric at Gainful.com, and Gainful.com is our website. The only ask that I have for you is to take the quiz and see for yourself how incredible the experience is, and then have a conversation with your registered dietitian to learn how you can get involved, have Gainful as part of your life, and join us in bringing personalized nutrition to everybody.
Awesome. I definitely hope folks take you up on that, and just appreciate you making time today, Eric.
Of course. Thanks so much, Joe. I really appreciate it.